"You deserve to know," she said at the altar, her voice cutting through the music. Every guest turned. My heart pounded. Then she confessed the unthinkable, that she was pregnant with my husband's baby. And in that moment, the wedding wasn't mine anymore. It was a trial. The church smelled of lilies and polished wood, the kind of scent meant to soothe, not to suffocate. My dress was heavy with lace and expectation. Family filled the pews, phones hidden but ready. My groom's hand gripped mine, warm, steady, or so I believed. The priest spoke the familiar words. "If anyone knows a reason this union should not be joined, speak now." The doors groaned open. Heels struck marble. And there she was, my friend, my sister, in everything but blood. Her eyes locked on mine, not his. "You deserve to know," she said. The guests gasped. Even the choir stilled. "I'm pregnant with his child." Her words shattered more than glass could. I looked at him, my groom. His lips parted, his face drained. His silence was the loudest sound of all. The priest's book lowered like a curtain. The choir's last note died against the rafters. In the pews, 100 throats forgot how to swallow. I felt my fingers still tangled with his, familiar, practiced, and I let them fall away as if they were ribbon, not skin. "I need 10 minutes, I said, not a scream, not a plea, an announcement. It came out steadier than I felt. Family only, side chapel. A wave of murmurs lifted and broke. The priest, startled into authority, lifted his palm to the congregation. "We'll pause," he said, the liturgy surrendering to logistics. I turned to her. "To the woman who used to sleep on my couch after college finals and steal my hoodies and finish my sentences. Lena," I said, "come with me." I looked at him. "You too." He nodded, too quickly, like a man relieved to be given a task. As we walked, I caught the best man's face in my peripheral. Ethan, my groom's younger brother. His jaw was locked. His eyes were everywhere but mine. My mother reached for my arm as I passed. "Do you want me?" she whispered. "Yes," I said, and her hand became gravity. The side chapel was smaller, quieter. Sunlight caught in dust like confetti nobody asked for. The door clicked behind us. No choir, no guests, just us and the truth we dragged with us. I stood with my back against the cool stone and counted to 3, because that's what you do when the floor is gone. You make a new one. "Say everything," I told Lena. "All of it. No performances now." Her shoulders lifted and fell. "I found out 3 weeks ago," she said. "I took the test twice. I made a doctor's appointment. She tilted her chin toward my groom. "He told me not to tell you before the wedding. He said we'd figure it out after." My groom, Daniel, flinched. "I told you to wait so we could talk together," he said, voice cracking on together. "Nora, I was going to tell you. I wasn't going to blindside you like this." "You just got scooped," I said. The words tasted like metal. "How is it yours?" Lena reached into her clutch with fingers that barely obeyed and pulled out a folded printout. "Insurance portal," she said. "It shows my prenatal appointment under his plan. I didn't ask for that. The office pulled it by mistake because he brought me to urgent care once for a migraine and—" Daniel cut in. "I added her as a temporary guest in the system when she was sick. I forgot to remove it. That's Nora. That's not proof of anything." I took the paper. His name sat beside her date, clinical and damning. I felt the tremor in my mother's breath beside me, the way she was trying to inhale my pain for me. "When?" I asked. "Dates." Lena's eyes slid to the floor. 10 weeks. "And the weekend of the lake," Daniel said too fast. Then he closed his eyes, because he'd said it out loud, and the word weekend hung like a nailed picture. My throat burned. The lake had been our escape from seating charts and vendor calls. I remembered the bonfire, the wine, Lena's laugh, Ethan's guitar, Daniel disappearing to check the grill. Memory rearranged itself like furniture after a fight. My father's voice came out of the stone, steady in the way only fathers get when their daughter is bleeding in front of them. "I have one question," he said to Daniel. "Did you tell our families before today?" "No," Daniel whispered. "Then you weren't going to tell her," my mother said, and the room seemed to agree. I turned to Ethan. "You've said nothing." He dragged his palm over his mouth, buying time. "This isn't my place." "Everything about this is your place," I said. "You're standing at the altar with us. Speak." He looked at Lena. She shook her head once, small, a plea or a warning, I couldn't tell. He looked at Daniel, and something passed between brothers that didn't include me, and that made me hate every identical childhood scar they shared. "Nora," Ethan said finally, "I don't have details." "You have eyes," I said. "Use those." He stared at the floor. "I saw them kiss," he said. "At the lake. I didn't see anything else." The room tilted again. The lake, the fire, my trust, now a pile of ash. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded almost bored to my own ears. Shock does that. It sits you in a chair inside yourself and tells you to take notes. Here's what happens next. Daniel, you go back out there and you tell the guests we're pausing the ceremony. No lies, no spin. Lena, you meet me at my apartment at 3 with anything else you haven't told me. I will not be ambushed twice. Mom, call Aunt Jo. She'll move the guests to the hall. Daniel stepped toward me. "Nora, please, don't end us today." "I didn't," I said, and let the sentence stand on its own feet. He reached for my hand. I let him feel the space between us instead. "Do you believe me?" Lena's question came out small, child-sized. It cut through all the adult noise. "I believe you're pregnant," I said. "I believe you're scared. I don't yet believe the part about whose child it is, because belief is expensive and I'm careful where I spend it." Her face hardened a fraction, as if truth could be punished by posture. The door opened. The priest stood there, pastoral face rearranged into event planner. "They're waiting," he said gently. "I know," I said. I slipped my engagement ring from my finger. Not dramatic, not a flung thing, just a tiny moon set down on stone. "I'll be out in a minute." When he left, Daniel looked at the ring like it would tell him what to say. "Please," he said again, his hands empty. "Let me fix this." "You don't get to fix it alone," I said. "You made it in a crowd." I turned to my mother. "When I go out there, I won't cry." "You can," she said. "I know," I said. "I won't." We walked back into the aisle, a narrow river between faces that pretended not to stare. The choir didn't try music this time. The priest leaned toward the mic. I lifted my palm before he spoke. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice filling the nave without trembling. "We're pausing the ceremony. Please join us in the hall for lunch. There will be no vows today." A sound moved through the crowd. Disappointment, pity, relief. It was all one sound. People stood, the choreography of kindness and curiosity colliding in small, clumsy bows. As they shuffled past, Ethan squeezed my shoulder. "I'm here," he said. "For whom?" I asked, and his mouth opened with nothing to put inside it. Lena slipped down a side aisle, her face a mask that wouldn't hold until the parking lot. Daniel stood near the altar, a man-sized question with no answer that honored all the variables. Outside, sunlight hit me like a verdict. Photographers lowered cameras, then lifted them again, unsure of the rules. I walked to the steps and sat, lifting the hem of my dress so it wouldn't drink the city dust. My mother sat beside me and rested her head on mine, like I was 12 again, with a fever that could be solved by a cool cloth and patience. People filed out and passed and away, and the church returned to the birds and the wind. Somewhere behind me, chairs scraped, the sound of a feast no one wanted now. 10 minutes. I'd asked for 10 minutes. I'd taken 30. I would need days, weeks, years. But the first decision had been made without a scream. The second would be made with proof. Behind the ache, behind the public wreckage, a quiet, unwelcome thought pressed in. The math. 10 weeks. The lake weekend. The way Ethan couldn't look at me. The way Lena had looked at him. Truth is a patient thing. It waits by the door, certain you'll open it when you're done rehearsing your favorite lie. I stood. "Let's go," I told my mother. "I have a 3 o'clock appointment with what actually happened." She threaded her arm through mine like a ribbon that knew its job. "And what do you have at 4? I surprised us both. "A lawyer," I said, "and a locksmith." We walked toward the car, the dress heavy, the air bright, the future wide and unwritten except for one line I could already see scrawled across its first page. This is where the story stops being polite. At 3 o'clock sharp, the knock came. It wasn't timid, it wasn't bold. It was the rhythm of someone who knew my door too well. My dress still lay across the couch like a collapsed ghost. My makeup had been wiped away hours ago, leaving only the ache behind my eyes. When I opened the door, Lena stood there in jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair pulled into a messy knot that looked accidental and strategic all at once. She clutched a manila envelope, swollen with papers. "You asked for everything," she said. "This is everything." I stepped aside. The living room smelled faintly of lilies, leftover bouquets from the wedding that wasn't. She sat on the edge of the chair, not sinking, not claiming. The envelope made a dull thud on the coffee table. I slid out the contents, doctor's notes, appointment cards, the insurance printout again, and a sonogram. A tiny, grainy silhouette floated in black and white. Life, proof, evidence, burden. My throat tightened. Why here? Why now? At the altar? "Because you wouldn't have believed me any other way," she said. Her voice cracked, but her spine stayed straight. "He would have denied it. He already denied it. And you," she looked at me with something like sorrow, "you would have chosen him over me because you loved him more than you trusted me." Her words landed heavy, because they weren't wrong. I sifted through the papers again, fingers trembling. I asked Daniel about the dates. He confirmed the lake. Was it just once? Her silence was answer enough. "How long?" I pressed. "Almost a year," she whispered. "It started before he proposed. It should have ended before he proposed. I tried, God, I tried, but he—" She broke off, pressing a hand against her stomach as if the child inside were listening. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, fighting the urge to scream until the windows cracked. Instead, I asked the question I had been avoiding since the church. "Does Ethan know?" Her eyes darted. That flicker was all the confirmation I needed. My chest went cold. "Of course he does," I said. "He saw you at the lake. He saw the kiss. He carried his brother's secret like it was his own, and you let him." She flinched. "Don't put this on Ethan. He didn't stop it." I cut in. My voice was sharper than I intended, slicing through the air between us. "None of you did. Not him, not Daniel, not you. You all left me to play bride in a story everyone else knew was a farce." Her eyes brimmed but didn't spill. "Nora, I thought you deserved the truth before vows tied you tighter to the lie. That's why I said it at the altar, because you deserved to know." The phrase echoed, the same one that detonated my wedding. You deserve to know. And in that moment, a new truth threaded itself through the wreckage. This wasn't only betrayal, it was inheritance. A child, a family tree now poisoned at its root. I stood, pacing, fists clenched. "You didn't just ruin a wedding, Lena. You rewrote a life." She rose too, suddenly fierce. "Better an ugly truth now than a beautiful lie forever." We stared at each other across the wreckage of our friendship, the envelope between us like a battlefield. And I realized the next move wasn't about her, or Daniel, or even Ethan. It was about me, how I chose to stand in the rubble. By morning, the flowers from the church were already wilting in the backseat of my mother's car. I hadn't slept, not really. My mind had replayed Lena's words on a loop until even silence felt like betrayal. At 9 a.m., and I sat in a lawyer's office that smelled of coffee and copier ink, a place where people came to turn grief into paperwork. Across the polished desk, Ms. Alvarez leaned forward, pen poised. "So the ceremony never concluded. Legally, you're not married." That sentence landed like a reprieve, but also like an echo. Not married, not bound, yet still bound by humiliation, by years, by the stain of trust turned sour. "Then what do I need to protect myself?" I asked. She ticked off items like beads on a rosary. Freeze joint accounts, change locks, secure messages, document everything. You were building a life together. That life has assets, commitments. He may contest, even if the marriage never formalized. I nodded, writing each step down like scripture, a new gospel of self-preservation. At noon, I stood in front of my apartment door with a locksmith crouched by the handle. his drill whirred, metal shaving away the last remnants of Daniel's access. The sound was harsh, but to me it was music. When the new lock clicked into place, I slipped the key into my pocket like armor. Minutes later, my phone lit up. Daniel, missed call. Another. Then a message, we need to talk. Don't do this, please. I typed nothing. Silence was its own kind of statement. But at 2 p.m., the knock came anyway, louder than Lena's, impatient, demanding. I opened the door a fraction. Chain still latched. He looked smaller than I remembered, tie askew, eyes hollow, the kind of man who had run out of alibis. Nora, please, don't shut me out like this. You shut me out first, I said, with lies. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he blurted. Lena was a mistake, it didn't mean anything. A year isn't a mistake, I said, voice cold. It's a choice you made every day, and now it means everything. It means a child. His jaw clenched. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Behind him, the hallway felt like a stage. I imagined neighbors pausing, listening, cataloguing the scandal that had walked right up to my door. Go, I said, before I make this louder than you can bear. The chain rattled as I shut the door. His shadow lingered beneath the crack for a moment, then disappeared. When silence settled again, I leaned against the door, breathing hard. The new lock gleamed, solid, unyielding. For the first time since the altar, I felt safe. But safe wasn't enough. The next step wasn't just protection, it was confrontation, and the stage for that was not my apartment. It was his family's house, where every secret would either survive or suffocate. The house smelled of roasted chicken and rosemary, the kind of comfort Daniel's mother always believed could heal anything. I stepped through the doorway, not as a bride, not as a fiancée, but as a witness. The dining room was full, his parents at either end, Ethan silent on one side, Daniel pacing near the window. Lena wasn't there, yet. "Thank you for coming," his mother said. Her voice, trembling with hope she didn't yet understand, was misplaced. "I didn't come for dinner," I said. "I came for truth." Daniel turned sharply. "Nora, please, not here." "Exactly here," I replied, "because this isn't just about us. It's about family, about what you've hidden from everyone who raised you." His father's fork clattered onto the plate. "What is she talking about, Daniel?" I slid the envelope across the table, the same one Lena had handed me at my apartment. Medical notes, sonogram, insurance printouts, receipts, proof that could no longer be shoved into silence. His mother's face drained of color. She pressed her napkin to her lips. "Daniel." He raked a hand through his hair, eyes darting toward Ethan for help. Ethan dropped his gaze, jaw clenched. That silence was its own confession. "Don't look at him," I said. "He already told me what he saw at the lake, the kiss, the lie that kept growing." Daniel tried to speak, but his father's voice cut through like a hammer on glass. "Answer her." Finally, the words came, ragged and thin. "It was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to last. Lena, she is pregnant," I interrupted. "And unless biology has rewritten itself, the child is yours." Gasps filled the table. His mother sobbed into her napkin. His father's hands shook as he pushed back his chair, the weight of disappointment heavier than any sermon. Daniel reached for me. "Nora, I swear I was going to end it. The wedding was supposed to be a clean slate." I pulled my hand back like it had touched fire. You don't build a clean slate on someone else's ashes. At that moment, the doorbell rang. All eyes turned. Ethan rose slowly, shoulders heavy, and opened it. Lena stood there pale, trembling, but resolute. "I didn't come to fight," she said softly. "I came because I couldn't let you all choke on half-truths." The room erupted. His mother's sobs turned into anger. His father demanded answers. Daniel shouted over them all. But Lena's voice, though fragile, cut through. "I told her at the altar because she deserved to know, and now you all deserve to know." The table, once meant for comfort, had become a courtroom. And for the first time, Daniel stood trial, not in whispers, not in secrecy, but before the very people he had sworn to honor. I straightened my spine, the storm finally breaking inside me into something sharp, something unshakable. "This isn't just your mess," I told him. "It's mine too, but only until I walk out that door." And every pair of eyes in the room knew I meant it. The dining room had become suffocating, air thick with betrayal, grief, and the bitter taste of lies finally unwrapped. Daniel stood in the middle, torn between excuses and silence. His mother sobbed quietly into her hands, while his father stared at him with the hollow eyes of a man who no longer recognized his son. "I can explain," Daniel started again, voice cracking. "No," I said firmly. "You've explained enough by what you did." The table fell silent. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop its ticking, as if time itself wanted to hear what came next. "I didn't come here to rescue this relationship," I continued, my voice steady. "I came here to close it." Daniel's face crumbled. "Nora, please, we can fix this. We can raise the baby together. Start over." "Start over?" I let the words hang in the air, sharp and cold. "You were building a family behind my back while planning a wedding in front of me. There is no starting over when the foundation is rot." Lena shifted uncomfortably near the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. For the first time I saw fear in her eyes, not of me, but of the future she had chosen. His father's voice cut through. "She's right, Daniel. You've dishonored them both. You've dishonored us." Daniel flinched like he'd been struck. He looked to Ethan, desperate for an ally, but Ethan's silence was louder than any defense. I reached into my bag and placed the engagement ring on the table. The diamond sparkled under the chandelier, but to me it looked dull, lifeless. "This was a promise," I said, "and like every other promise you made, it's broken." Gasps rippled through the room. Daniel lunged forward, gripping the table edge as if holding it could hold me. "Don't do this, Nora. I love you." I stood tall. "Love doesn't lie for a year. Love doesn't humiliate me at the altar. Love doesn't build a child with someone else and expect me to smile through it." Tears blurred his vision, but mine were gone. I had none left to give. "I deserve better," I said, my voice clear and final, "and from this moment on, I will demand it." I turned, walked toward the door, and for the first time since the church, I felt control slip back into my hands. Lena moved aside, unable to meet my eyes. The house was behind me now. Outside, the air was sharp, cutting through the remnants of roses still pinned to my hair. I inhaled deeply, a breath of release. I wasn't yet free of the pain, but I was free of him, and that was enough. The city looked different when you walk it newly unbound. The same streets I'd crossed in white shoes days before now carried me in worn flats, and a steadiness I hadn't felt in months. The stares from neighbors lingered, some curious, some pitying, but they no longer burned. Let them look, let them know. At my apartment, the new lock clicked behind me like punctuation. On the counter sat Lena's envelope, its papers spilling like secrets I never asked to inherit. I slid it into a drawer. Not to forget, but to place it where it belonged, the past. The next weeks blurred with logistics, cancelling vendors, returning gifts, sending notes to guests who wrote "so sorry" in cards with trembling pens. My lawyer kept me steady. "No vows, no binding, you are free." Words I repeated like prayer, but healing wasn't paperwork. Healing was mornings when I woke and reached for a man who wasn't there. Healing was scrubbing lipstick off a mug and realizing it was my own. Healing was walking past the lake one evening alone, wind biting and remembering not the betrayal, but the way the water still glittered, untouched by human failure. One afternoon, Ethan knocked. He stood awkwardly in the hallway, guilt heavy in his posture. "I should have told you sooner," he said. "You should have," I agreed. "I thought protecting my brother was loyalty," he admitted. "Turns out it was cowardice." I studied him for a long moment, then learned from it. "Don't let silence be your alibi again." He nodded, eyes wet, and left without asking for forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. Weeks later, my mother joined me at a cafe. She squeezed my hand across the table. "You walked away with dignity, Nora. That matters more than any dress, any altar." Her words stayed with me, because she was right. My story wasn't tragedy, it was reclamation. On a quiet Sunday, I returned to the same church. Empty pews, sunlight pouring through stained glass. I stood where I had once been humiliated, where whispers had replaced vows, and I whispered my own vow, not to a man, not to a crowd, but to myself. I will never again confuse lies for love. The silence held me, warm and honest. When I left, the city seemed lighter, not because the past had vanished, but because I no longer carried it alone. Justice hadn't come in the form of revenge or spectacle. Justice had come in the form of walking away, of choosing myself. And for the first time since that broken wedding day, I believed her words again, only this time in my own voice. I deserved to know.